The Kryn homeworld appeared before them like a fortress of light. Massive orbital defense platforms surrounded it in layers, each one bristling with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. The planet below was protected by shields that could withstand nuclear bombardment. It was the most defended location in the known galaxy. The Vraxian swarm attacked first, their 3 battle groups hitting from different angles simultaneously. Space erupted in fire and light as the orbital defenses responded. Ships died on both sides within the first minute, massive explosions lighting up the void like dying stars. Captain Lee piloted the silent knife through the chaos, using the battle as cover. His stealth system strained to keep them hidden while explosions rocked the ship. Mira stood behind him, watching the tactical display. Each dot that disappeared was a ship and its crew dying. "We're approaching the shield weakness," Lee said. 42-minute window starting now. The shield had a maintenance access point at the North Pole that cycled every 6 hours. Mira had discovered it in Admiral Somin's files, hidden among thousands of other documents. It was their only way through. The silent knife dove toward the planet's atmosphere, engines screaming. Defense platforms tracked them but couldn't get a lock through the stealth systems. They broke through the shield with 30 seconds to spare. The entry was rough. Fire surrounded the ship as they hit atmosphere at combat speed. Lee's hands flew across the controls, keeping them from burning up or crashing. They landed hard in a frozen wasteland, the ship's landing gear sinking into ice. Mira's strike team assembled quickly. Besides her, there was Rek, Director Choi Minho, and 4 elite soldiers from different species. All of them knew this was a one-way trip. Even if they succeeded, escaping would be almost impossible. They traveled across the ice toward Thex's fortress using stolen transport codes. The Kryn cities they passed through were beautiful, towering structures of crystal and metal that reflected light in stunning patterns. But there was also fear here. Civilians hurried through streets, mandibles clicking nervously. They knew their world was under attack. The fortress itself was built into a mountain, its walls carved from solid rock and reinforced with armor plating. Thousands of crimson mandibles, Thex's elite guard, protected it. Getting inside would require both force and cunning. Mira's team fought their way through the outer defenses. The battle was brutal in close quarters. Frek's strength and combat experience proved invaluable as he carved through enemy soldiers. But they took casualties. 2 of their team died in the first 10 minutes. They pushed deeper into the fortress, following maps that Choi had obtained from his intelligence sources. Alarms screamed throughout the complex. More guards came, wave after wave of them. In orbit, the space battle was turning desperate. The Vraxian fleet was being pushed back despite their numerical advantage. The orbital platforms had concentrated their fire, and Vraxian ships were dying by the dozens. Captain Lee, still hiding on the planet's surface, coordinated with the human resistance ships to provide cover, but it wasn't enough. Lee made a terrible choice. He ordered a quarter of the human fleet to make a suicide run at the orbital platforms, drawing fire away from the Vraxians. Brave men and women flew their ships into certain death to buy Mira more time. Their sacrifice worked. The pressure eased enough for the Vraxians to regroup. Deep in the fortress, Mira's team reached Thex's command chamber. The doors were sealed, requiring cutting through 3 feet of reinforced armor. As they worked, more crimson mandibles attacked. Frek and the remaining soldiers held them off while Mira and Choi cut through the door. Finally, the door fell. Thex's command chamber was vast, filled with holographic displays showing the battle in orbit. The Chancellor himself stood at the center, surrounded by his most trusted guards. But he wasn't alone. Ambassador Rix was there, along with several other council members. They were prisoners bound and on their knees. "Commander Mira," Thex said, his mandibles clicking in what might have been laughter. "I've been expecting you. Come to murder me like the terrorist you are." "I came to arrest you," Mira said, her weapon trained on him, "for the murder of 3 innocent women and 50,000 civilians." "Arrest?" Thex clicked again. "There is no authority above me. I am the Empire." "You were the Empire," Mira corrected. "Your alliance has collapsed. The Quellan Conclave withdrew support. The Tauron clans are in rebellion. Half your council wants you gone. You're finished, Thex." "Perhaps," the Chancellor said. "But if I fall, I take this world with me." He activated a holographic display showing a weapon system buried deep beneath the fortress. A planet killer, built in secret over decades. "If I activate it, this entire world dies. 5 billion Kryn turn to ash." The room went silent. "You're bluffing," Choi said. "You wouldn't kill your own people." Wouldn't I? Thex's eyes were cold. Better they die than live to see our species humiliated. I gave them order. I gave them power. If they cannot appreciate that, they deserve extinction. Mira realized he meant it. Thex had gone mad with paranoia and pride. He would rather destroy everything than admit defeat. If you kill me, Thex continued, the weapon activates automatically. You cannot stop it. So here's your choice, Commander. Leave now and I live, or kill me and 5 billion innocents die with me. Mira's mind raced. There had to be a way to stop the weapon, but she didn't have time to find it. Every second she hesitated, more ships died in orbit. More soldiers sacrificed themselves for this mission. Rex stepped forward. There is another option. Before anyone could react, the massive Tauron charged at Thex. The Crimson Mandibles tried to stop him, but Rex was too fast and too strong. He crashed into the Chancellor, tackling him away from the control console. Thex's mandibles cut deep into Rex's armor, finding flesh. The Tauron roared in pain but didn't let go. They struggled, two warriors locked in combat. Rex's strength was fading, but he held on long enough for Mira to reach the console. She worked frantically, trying to disable the planet killer. Choi joined her, his fingers flying across alien controls. The system was designed to be foolproof, but nothing made by living beings could be perfect. They found a weakness in the activation sequence and exploited it. The weapon powered down. Rex released Thex and collapsed, bleeding heavily. The Chancellor tried to stand, tried to reach the controls again, but Mira was there. She struck him once, hard enough to stun, and he fell. Get medical aid for Rex, Mira ordered. Then she looked down at Thex. You're done. She activated her communicator, broadcasting on all frequencies. This is Commander Kang Mira. I have Chancellor Thex in custody. I have evidence of his crimes. He will face trial. She transmitted Thex's confession about the fake trial, the bombing, everything. She had been recording since entering the room. The broadcast went everywhere. Every ship in orbit, every home on the planet below, every corner of the galaxy. There was no denying it now. No covering it up. In orbit, something unexpected happened. Some of the Kryn defense platforms stopped firing. The Crimson Mandibles in the fortress lowered their weapons. They had heard the confession. They had seen their Chancellor's madness. Their honor demanded they stand down. The battle ended not with a final explosion, but with silence. Mira knelt beside Rex. The Tauron was badly wounded, but medical teams were rushing to help him. Why, she asked. You could have let me handle it. You carried this burden. Long enough, Rex said, his words labored. Someone else had to help. That's what warriors do. You're going to live, Mira told him. You're going to testify at his trial. Good, Rex said, and then he passed out. Captain Lee's voice came over the communicator. Mira, we have a problem. The Vraxian fleet isn't withdrawing. A rogue faction is breaking away and heading toward the border systems. They're not honoring the agreement. Mira's blood went cold. The deal she had made, the protocols she had given them, were being used against innocent people. Her worst fear was coming true. She stood up, looking at Thex's unconscious form. She had won, but the price might be more than she could bear. All ships, she broadcast. New priority target. The rogue Vraxian faction must be stopped. We cannot let them attack civilians. She paused, then added, I made a deal with devils to see justice done. Now I have to stop those devils from destroying everything we fought for. This is my responsibility. Help me fix this. To her surprise, ships responded. Hundreds of them from dozens of species. They had come to fight tyranny. Now they would fight to protect the innocent, even from Mira's own allies. The war wasn't over. It was changing, mutating into something new. But Mira had learned something important. She wasn't alone anymore. She had allies, friends, people who believed in the same things she did. Admiral G1 had once said that fighting alone made you dangerous, but fighting together made you unstoppable. Mira finally understood what she meant. The fleet regrouped and jumped after the rogue Vraxians. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The neutral zone was the darkest part of the galaxy. No laws, no empire, just empty space where criminals, smugglers, and worse things hid from civilization. It was the last place anyone would expect to find Mira negotiating with her greatest enemies. The meeting took place on an abandoned freighter drifting through dead space. Mira arrived with Captain Lee on the Silent Knife. Across from them, filling the cavernous cargo bay with their presence, were the Vraxians. The Vraxian swarm were insectoid creatures, each one the size of a small car. Their bodies were covered in chitinous armor, and they had too many legs and mandibles that clicked when they communicated. They operated as a hive mind, sharing thoughts through chemical signals and limited telepathy. Years ago, they had invaded Empire territory, killing billions before the three generals stopped them. Now Mira was asking for their help. Lee stood behind her, one hand on his weapon. Every instinct screamed at him to run. These creatures had killed millions of humans during the war. Children, families, entire colonies. The Vraxian queen mind spoke through several bodies at once, creating a strange, echoing voice. Why should we help you, human? Your generals defeated us. You destroyed 3 of our hive worlds. Because we have a common enemy, Mira said calmly. The empire that attacked your territory first, then blamed you for defending yourselves. The same empire that executed the generals who showed you mercy when they could have wiped you out completely. This was true. After defeating the Vraxian military, Admiral Jiwan had negotiated peace rather than complete extermination. The Vraxians remembered this. What do you offer? The Queen Mind asked. I know how to breach the defenses of the Kryn homeworld, Mira said. Chancellor Thex is hiding there, protected by weapon systems that no conventional attack can penetrate. But I discovered a weakness. She pulled up a holographic display showing the planet's defense grid. If you provide military support for one coordinated strike, I can get a team to the surface and capture Thex. In exchange, I'll give you the defense protocols for 3 Empire border systems. Lee's blood went cold. Those systems had civilian populations. Millions of people. You can't, he said, grabbing Mira's arm. Those are innocent people. Mira pulled away, her face expressionless. The protocols won't tell them how to kill civilians, Captain. They'll tell them how to attack military installations, and the Empire can evacuate those systems if they choose to. They'll have warning. You're gambling with millions of lives. Thex already killed 50,000 looking for me. Mira's voice cracked slightly, showing emotion for the first time. How many more will he kill if I don't stop him? How many rebellions will he crush? How many heroes will he execute? She turned back to the Vraxians. This is my offer. Take it or leave it. The Queen Mind consulted with itself, bodies clicking and shifting. Finally, we accept. We will join your attack on the Kryn homeworld. But if you betray us, human, we will destroy Earth itself. If I betray you, I deserve it, Mira said. The deal was made. The most unlikely alliance in galactic history was formed between a human ghost and an alien swarm that had once been mortal enemies. After the Vraxians left, Lee confronted Mira in the Silent Knife's ready room. His face was red with anger. You just armed genocidal monsters, he said. How is this any different from what Thex did? It's different because I'm choosing the lesser evil, Mira replied tiredly. She sat down heavily, and for the first time Lee saw how exhausted she looked. Thex will kill millions more if he stays in power. He's already bombed civilian colonies. He's ordered the execution of hundreds of political prisoners. The rebellions are giving him excuses to become more brutal, not less. So your solution is to work with the Vraxians? My solution is to end this war before it destroys the galaxy, Mira said. Do you think I'm happy about this? Do you think I wanted any of this? Her voice was bitter. I was retired, Lee. I was locked away precisely because my methods were too extreme. But they took away the only people who could control me. They killed my friends, murdered 50,000 of my people, and now they're slaughtering anyone who opposes them. What choice do I have? Lee wanted to argue but found he couldn't. Everything she said was true. The Empire under Thex had become monstrous. Someone had to stop it. If you become what he is, Lee said quietly, I'll stop you myself. If I become what he is, Mira replied, I'll let you. Over the next 2 weeks, Mira coordinated the largest military operation since the Vraxian War. She gathered ships from everywhere, human resistance fighters, freed political prisoners who had military training, defectors from the Empire's fleet, and even some aliens from species that Thex had oppressed. Combined with the Vraxian fleet, it was a force of over 300 ships. Director Choi Min-ho worked his contacts in the Empire's political structure, building a coalition of moderate voices who were ready to step in once Thex fell. They didn't openly support Mira's methods, but they were prepared to offer amnesty and form a new government if she succeeded. Ambassador Rix joined them, bringing several Quellan ships. His people were philosophers and mediators, not warriors, but they understood that sometimes peace required force. The Quellan conclave formally withdrew its support from Thex, a political earthquake that sent shockwaves through the empire. The cracks were showing. Thex's alliance was fracturing, but there was one more surprise. A prison transport ship docked with their staging area, and out walked Commander Rek. He had escaped during a prison transfer, killing his guards and stealing the ship. He came alone, asking to join Mira's cause. Mira met him in the docking bay, surrounded by suspicious humans who remembered the Tauron as their enemy. Frek knelt before her, a gesture of submission among his people. "I was wrong to hunt you," he said. "I followed orders without questioning them. I valued loyalty to power over loyalty to justice. I wish to correct that mistake." "Get up," Mira said. "I don't need servants. I need soldiers who think for themselves." Vrek rose. "I'm a warrior. I've fought for 30 years. Let me fight for something that matters." Mira studied him. She knew this was genuine. Frek had thrown away his career, his honor in the eyes of his people, everything he had worked for. He had done it because he believed it was right. "Welcome to the rebellion," she said. "But if you're coming with us to the Kryn homeworld, know that we might not survive. This is a desperate attack against impossible odds." "The best kind," Vrek said, and Mira almost smiled. With Vrek came tactical knowledge of Imperial military doctrine. He knew how they would respond to different attacks, what their weaknesses were. Combined with Mira's intelligence and the Vraxians' raw military power, they had a real chance. The plan was audacious and simple. The Vraxian fleet would attack from 3 vectors simultaneously, overwhelming the orbital defenses. During the chaos, the Silent Knife would slip through using its stealth technology, carrying a small strike team to the surface. Mira, Vrek, Choi Minho, and a handful of elite fighters would infiltrate Thex's fortress and capture him alive. Captain Lee gathered his crew before the assault. They were volunteers all, humans who understood the risk. Some had lost family in the New Sol bombing. Others simply believed in the cause. All of them knew they might die. 3 weeks ago, Lee said, we were loyal soldiers of the Empire. Now we're rebels. Some would call us traitors. He paused. But I've learned that true loyalty isn't to governments or politicians. It's to the principles we believe in. Justice, honor, protection of the innocent. The Empire abandoned those principles when it executed 3 heroes. Now we fight to bring them back, his crew cheered. They were ready. Mira stood alone in her quarters, preparing her equipment one last time. She thought about Jiwon, Hana, and Somin. They would hate what she had become. They would be horrified by her alliance with the Vraxians. But maybe, just maybe, they would understand why. A message arrived on her personal device. It was from Hana's wife on Earth, someone Mira had never met. The message was simple. My wife's last words were about you. She said you would do terrible things, but for the right reasons. She said to trust you. I don't know if I can, but I'm trying. Bring Thex to justice. Make their deaths mean something. Mira closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The weight of expectations, the burden of all those who had suffered, pressed down on her. But she had carried heavy burdens before. The fleet gathered at the staging point. 300 ships from a dozen species, united by anger at injustice and hope for change. It was the largest coalition force assembled in decades. Mira broadcast a message to all of them. We go to face an enemy who thinks himself untouchable. We go to bring justice to those who thought themselves above it. Some of us won't come back, but our actions today will echo through history. We fight not for revenge, but for a future where executions of heroes never happen again. For the fallen. For the innocent. For everyone who ever suffered under tyranny. Let's end this. The fleet jumped to the Kryn homeworld. The war entered its final phase. This is Baba Yaga, and I'm coming for everyone who thinks they're safe. The hunt had become a war, and the galaxy woke Commander Vrek was a Tauron, a species that looked like massive rhinoceros-like creatures who walked on 2 legs. They were warriors by culture, proud and honorable. Vrek had fought in 30 campaigns across the galaxy and never lost a battle. When High Chancellor Thex assigned him to hunt Mira, Vrek had been confident. How hard could it be to catch one human woman? 3 weeks later, he understood why the assignment was considered a punishment rather than an honor. Mira didn't fight like any enemy he had faced. She used misdirection and false trails. When he sent troops to one location, She struck somewhere completely different. When he set a trap, she either avoided it entirely or turned it against him. She fought through proxies using the freed prisoners and resistance fighters she had organized. Freck never knew if he was chasing Mira herself or one of 100 people working for her. His fleet lost 6 ships in the first month, not to direct combat but to sabotage. Mira had somehow infiltrated his supply chain. Systems failed at critical moments. Navigation computers gave false readings. Life support malfunctioned. His soldiers became paranoid, checking and rechecking everything, jumping at shadows. The worst part was the messages. Mira sent him personal communications, encrypted so only he could read them. She told him where she would strike next, and he still couldn't stop her. She was always 3 steps ahead. Commander Rek, one message read, "You are a warrior of honor. Why do you serve a politician who has none? Ask yourself what you're really fighting for." Rek wanted to dismiss it as psychological warfare, but the question haunted him. He had seen the files that Mira released. He knew the trial had been fake. He knew about the bombing of New Sol, and deep down he was starting to wonder if he was on the wrong side. Mira, meanwhile, was executing a larger plan. The Baba Yaga protocols had sparked rebellions across the Empire, and she was secretly coordinating them, not as their leader but as an advisor. She provided intelligence, taught tactics, and connected different resistance groups so they could support each other. Director Choi Minho, the head of Human Intelligence Services, tried to walk a political tightrope. Publicly, he condemned Mira's actions. Privately, he provided her with classified information about the Empire's responses to the rebellions. He knew humanity's government was weak, caught between loyalty to the Empire and anger over the general's execution. When the Imperial Council launched an investigation into possible human government involvement with Mira's activities, Choi knew his time was running out. They would find evidence eventually because he had been helping her. He had to choose. Save himself or commit fully to the cause. He chose the cause. Choi burned his bridges spectacularly. He held a press conference and resigned his position, then immediately released more classified files showing decades of Empire corruption. He exposed secret deals, illegal weapons programs, and evidence that multiple species on the Imperial Council were guilty of the same crimes they had accused the 3 generals of committing. Then he disappeared, resurfacing 3 days later at Mira's side. He brought with him not just intelligence but contacts throughout the Empire's political structure. Moderate voices who wanted reform but had been too afraid to act. Among those moderates was Ambassador Rix, a Quellan made of living crystal. His species valued logic and fairness above all else. The execution of the 3 generals had disturbed him deeply, but the bombing of New Sol had horrified him. When Choi contacted him secretly, Rix listened. "The Empire is collapsing from within," Choi explained during their secret meeting. "Thex's actions have destroyed whatever moral authority we once had. The rebellions will tear us apart unless we can reform." "But Mira's methods are extreme," Rix argued. "She's killed thousands." "She's killed soldiers and destroyed infrastructure," Choi corrected. "Thex killed 50,000 civilians. Who was the real terrorist?" Rix had no answer for that. Mira's next target was Station Omega, where the Imperial Council held its meetings. Security was impossible to breach, or so everyone thought. Mira proved them wrong. She didn't attack the station directly. Instead, she hacked their scheduling system and discovered when the council would meet next. Then she infiltrated not as herself, but as part of a maintenance crew, using false identity documents that Choi had provided. The council meeting was in session, discussing how to suppress the rebellions when the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in, but all the doors had locked. The council members found themselves trapped in their own chamber. Screens lit up around the room showing Mira's face. She was broadcasting from somewhere inside the station. "Honored council members," she said calmly. "You're not in danger. I'm not here to kill you. I'm here to educate you." For the next 2 hours, she forced them to watch. Recordings of their own corruption. Videos of the bombing of New Sol, showing bodies of children pulled from rubble. Testimonies from political prisoners about torture in the black sites. Evidence of every crime the Empire had committed in the name of order. Some council members looked away. Some became angry. Some wept. When it ended, Mira appeared in the chamber herself, walking in through a door that should have been locked. She was alone and unarmed. "I could kill you all right now," she said. "You're trapped here with me, but that's not what I want. I want you to understand that your empire is built on lies and fear. I want you to see what you've become. Security forces finally broke through the doors, weapons raised. Mira surrendered peacefully, letting them take her into custody. But before they could move her, she activated a dead man's switch. If she didn't check in every hour, more classified files would be released automatically. Files that would destroy what remained of the Empire's credibility. They let her go. They had no choice. As Mira walked out of Station Omega, she sent a message to Chancellor Thex. Your house is falling. Your allies see you clearly now. How long before they turn on you like you turned on the generals? Thex, watching from his fortress world, felt fear for the first time in his long life. Commander Rek, meanwhile, had been tracking Mira to Station Omega. He arrived just as she was leaving, and he made a choice. Instead of attacking, he requested a private meeting. They met in an abandoned section of the station, just the two of them. Freck towered over Mira, easily twice her size, armed and armored. She carried only a small pistol. I could kill you right now, Rek said. You could try, Mira replied. But you won't. You want answers. Freck's weapon stayed pointed at her, but he didn't fire. I've read your file. I've studied every mission you've conducted. You're not a soldier. You're an assassin and a terrorist. I'm a weapon, Mira said simply. For 15 years, 3 good women kept me locked away because they understood what I am. The Empire killed them and freed me. Now I'm doing what I was designed to do. Designed? We all become what the galaxy needs us to be, Mira said. You became a warrior because your people value strength. I became this because humans needed someone willing to do terrible things so others wouldn't have to. She took a step closer. You're hunting me because you were ordered to. I'm doing this because I have to. Ask yourself which of us is truly free. Freck's weapon lowered slightly. What do you want? I want justice for 3 women who saved billions of lives and were murdered for it. I want an end to an empire that executes heroes and protects criminals. Mira's voice was cold and hard. I want Chancellor Thex to face trial for his crimes. Real trial, not the show he gave my friends. He'll never surrender. Then I'll take him by force. Mira turned to leave, then paused. You're a warrior of honor, Rek. When this is over, you'll have to choose what kind of soldier you want to be. One who follows orders blindly or one who does what's right. She walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the station. Freck stood there for a long time, thinking about her words. 3 days later, Freck received new orders from Thex. Destroy a refugee convoy suspected of carrying resistance fighters. Intelligence showed the convoy was mostly families with children, fleeing a war zone. The orders stated that acceptable casualties included all civilians. Freck stared at the orders for an hour. Then he sent an encrypted warning to the convoy, giving them time to escape. He filed a false report claiming they had jumped to unknown coordinates before he could intercept. His second-in-command, a loyal soldier named Krell, reported him for insubordination. Freck was arrested and scheduled for court-martial. But as they led him away in chains, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. He had finally done the right thing. From somewhere in the galaxy, Mira heard about Rek's arrest. She sent him a message through channels even prison security couldn't block. You're starting to ask the right questions. When you're ready for answers, I'll be waiting. The war was escalating and battle lines were being drawn. But they weren't the lines anyone had expected. This wasn't humans against aliens. It was justice against corruption, truth against lies, and those who valued life against those who valued only power. And Mira was preparing for her final move. Chancellor Thex had retreated to his fortress world, surrounded by the most advanced defenses in the galaxy. Getting to him would require something desperate, something that would cost her whatever remained of her soul. She began. Station Beta 7 was a communications hub that connected 50 star systems. Information flowed through it every second, millions of messages carrying news, orders, and secrets across the Empire. The station had 300 workers and was protected by a small security force. They thought they were safe. They were wrong. Mira arrived 3 days after the execution. Her ship docked at a cargo bay using false credentials that identified her as a maintenance worker named Kim Sura. She wore plain clothes and carried a toolbox. Security barely glanced at her papers. Just another human technician, nothing special. She made her way to the central computer core, walking past guards who never noticed her. She had studied the station's layout for years. memorizing every corridor and access point. When she reached a locked door, she simply waited until a worker came through, then slipped inside behind them. People rarely looked behind themselves. The computer core hummed with activity, massive servers processing endless streams of data. Mira found an access terminal in a maintenance tunnel and plugged in her neural interface. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, breaking through security systems that the Empire thought were unbreakable. 20 minutes later, she had full control. The files that Han So-min had transmitted before her death were now in Mira's possession. They contained everything: recordings of secret meetings where Chancellor Thex and his allies had planned the fake trial, financial records showing bribes paid to witnesses, communications proving the charges were invented, and evidence that the three generals had actually prevented war crimes by other commanders. Mira uploaded these files to every major news network in the Empire simultaneously. Then she did something even more damaging. She sent them to military channels, civilian forums, and directly to the personal devices of every member of the Imperial Council. Within minutes, billions of people across thousands of worlds were watching the truth. The Empire tried to shut it down, but Mira had scattered the files through so many channels that they couldn't stop them all. She had also encrypted them in a way that proved they were authentic and unaltered. The truth spread like fire through dry grass. By the time station security realized something was wrong, Mira was already gone. She left behind only a recorded message that played on every screen in the station. You took 3 women who fought for justice. You killed them to make yourselves feel powerful. Now watch as your lies die with them. This is just the beginning. Signed Baba Yaga. The name meant nothing to most aliens, but humans knew. Old soldiers remembered stories whispered in bars and barracks. A ghost who could kill entire enemy command structures without firing a shot. A woman who had once turned an enemy fleet against itself through psychological warfare so brutal that her own government had locked her away. High Chancellor. Thex watched the files spread across the Empire from his private chambers. His mandibles clicked in anger. He immediately called an emergency council meeting and ordered Mira's capture. A task force of 50 ships was sent to Haven's Rest to find her. They found her cabin empty. Inside, they discovered something that made even hardened soldiers uncomfortable. Mira had left behind detailed video files of every mission she had ever conducted. Each one showed methods more creative and terrifying than the last: infiltration, assassination, sabotage, psychological operations that drove enemy commanders to madness. The final recording showed Mira sitting calmly in her cabin, speaking directly to whoever found this. My name is Kang Mira. For 15 years, these 3 generals kept me retired because my methods were too extreme. They were the only ones who understood me, the only ones who could control me. You killed them on live broadcast to humiliate humanity. She paused, and something cold flickered in her eyes. You took away the only people who could stop me. Now let me show you what I really am. Every crime you accused them of? I'll make you wish those were the worst things you'd seen. Thex ordered the recording suppressed, but it was too late. Copies had already spread through military networks. Soldiers who would soon be hunting Mira now knew exactly what they were facing. Morale dropped immediately. While the Empire scrambled to respond, Mira executed her next move. She had spent years gathering intelligence on the Empire's secret prisons, black sites where political enemies disappeared, places that officially didn't exist. She knew where they were, who ran them, and how to break them open. The first prison she hit held 200 political prisoners from a dozen species. Guards woke up to find their weapons missing and their communication systems dead. Mira walked through the facility like a ghost, opening cells and freeing everyone inside. But she didn't just let them go. She gave them weapons, equipment, and targets. She organized them into cells and taught them basic tactics. Then she sent them out to spread chaos through the Empire's infrastructure. 3 more prisons fell in the next week. Each time, Mira freed the prisoners and turned them into fighters. Among them were several human resistance members who had been arrested for protesting the general's execution. They joined her cause eagerly. Captain Lee Dongjun had been wrestling with his conscience since receiving Mira's message. He commanded the stealth corvette Silent Knife, and he had served under Admiral Park Ji-won years ago. He knew the 3 generals had been heroes, not criminals. He also knew that Mira was dangerous. When she contacted him again, offering intelligence on Imperial fleet movements in exchange for transportation, He made his choice. He met her at the abandoned mining station in neutral space. Mira came alone, carrying only a small bag. She looked tired but alert. They sat across from each other in the station's empty cafeteria. They were good people, Lee said quietly. They didn't deserve what happened. No, they didn't, Mira agreed. But the Empire will learn that there are consequences for murder. What you're doing, it's terrorism. It's war, Mira corrected him. They just don't want to call it that because I'm winning. She slid a data chip across the table. Imperial fleet positions updated daily. Supply routes. Patrol schedules. In exchange, I need your ship for transport and your silence. Lee picked up the chip, turning it over in his fingers. If I help you, I'm a traitor. If you help me, you're standing up for what's right. Mira's voice was calm but intense. They killed 3 heroes and called it justice. They'll do it again unless someone stops them. I can't do this alone, Captain. I need allies. Lee thought about Admiral Jiwan, who had always taught him that honor meant doing the right thing even when it was hard. He thought about the fake trial and the execution broadcast to humiliate humanity. He made his decision. I'll help you, he said. But if you start killing innocent people, I'll stop you myself. Fair enough, Mira said. She almost smiled. I only kill those who deserve it. With Lee's help, Mira gained mobility. His stealth ship could go places her small vessel couldn't. Over the next 2 weeks, she struck 12 targets, supply depots, intelligence facilities, and communication hubs. She never killed civilians. She destroyed infrastructure and stole secrets. But then Chancellor Thex made a catastrophic mistake. Frustrated by his inability to catch Mira, he ordered an orbital bombardment of a human colony called New Sol. Intelligence suggested she might be hiding there. He didn't bother to confirm it. He just wanted to send a message. 50,000 people died in the bombing. Humans and aliens who had lived together peacefully. Schools, hospitals, homes all turned to ash and rubble. Mira wasn't even there. She was 3 systems away when she heard the news. Lee found her in the Silent Knife's cargo bay, standing completely still and staring at nothing. He had brought her the casualty reports. 50,000, she said quietly. He killed 50,000 people looking for me. Mira, I'm sorry. She turned to look at him, and Lee felt ice run down his spine. Her eyes held something terrible, a cold fury that promised death. I was being merciful, Mira said. I was hitting infrastructure, not people. I was trying to force change without massive casualties. She walked past him toward the ship's computer. He just made this personal. Now he'll learn why they locked me away. She sat down and began typing. What she created over the next 6 hours would change the galaxy forever. She called it the Baba Yaga Protocols, a detailed manual for asymmetric warfare against overwhelming force. How to organize resistance cells, how to identify and exploit weaknesses in large military organizations, how to use propaganda and information warfare, how to fight when you have no chance of winning a conventional war. She made it simple enough that anyone could follow it. Then she released it freely across the galaxy, targeting every oppressed species, every resistance movement, every group that had suffered under the Empire's rule. Within days, rebellion sparked on 17 worlds. The Empire's military, already stretched thin, couldn't respond to everything at once. Mira's final message went viral across trillions of devices. To all who suffer under tyranny, you are not helpless. You are not weak. You have power if you choose to use it. They killed my friends to make an example. Then they killed 50,000 of my people looking for me. Now I make an example of them. Watch what happens when you push humans too far. Watch what happens when you take everything from someone who has nothing left to lose. The Grand Chamber was the largest room in Imperial Capital Station Alpha. It floated in space above the Empire's homeworld, a massive structure built to make visitors feel small and powerless. Today, 3 human women stood in the center of that enormous room, surrounded by thousands of alien beings who had come to watch them die. Admiral Park Jiwan stood straight and calm. At 62 years old, she had spent her entire life serving humanity and protecting others. Her gray hair was tied back neatly, and her uniform was spotless despite the chains on her wrists. Next to her stood General Yoon Hana, 54, with fierce eyes that refused to show fear. On Jiwan's other side was Fleet Admiral Han So-min, 58, quiet and thoughtful as always. All 3 wore their medals proudly. The trial had been a joke. False evidence, paid witnesses and judges who had already decided their fate before the first word was spoken. The Empire accused them of war crimes during the Vraxian War, claiming they had killed civilians with excessive force.
It was a lie.
These three women had saved billions of lives when the insect-like Vraxian swarm had attacked the outer colonies. They had protected humans and aliens alike, fighting a desperate defensive war against an enemy that showed no mercy. But the Empire needed someone to blame. Peace talks with the Vraxian remnants required a sacrifice, and humanity was still the newest member of the Galactic Empire. The other species wanted to remind humans of their place. High Chancellor Thex, the insectoid leader of the Kryn species, had orchestrated everything. He hated humans and feared their growing military power. This execution would humble humanity and show the galaxy who truly held power. The Chief Justice, a tall crystalline being that reflected light in cold, sharp angles, read the sentence. The words echoed through the chamber. Death by molecular disintegration. Sentence to be carried out immediately. Jiwan stepped forward. They had given her a chance to speak final words. She looked up at the viewing galleries where representatives from 1,000 worlds watched. Her voice was strong and clear. We fought to protect life. All life. We followed the rules of war and saved billions of your people. She paused, letting her words sink in. But this trial shows that the Empire does not care about truth or justice. You care only about power and control. Her eyes found Chancellor Thex in his special viewing box. We three were not your only problem. We kept darker things chained for your sake. Things that humans created but chose to lock away because we understood the danger. Now you've taken away the only voices that could control those things. The chamber buzzed with confused whispers. What did she mean? Yoon Hana spoke next, her voice thick with emotion. I have a wife. 2 children. They're on Earth right now watching this. I want them to know I love them. Tears ran down her face, but her voice never wavered. To my people, remember who we are. Remember that we fight for each other, not for empires that betray us. Then she said something that seemed strange to most listeners. Mira, I'm sorry we're leaving you alone. But I know you'll do what needs to be done. Be the monster they deserve, not the one they fear. Han Soman was last. She didn't make a speech. Instead, she closed her eyes and activated her neural implant one final time. In the seconds before they detected it and shut it down, she transmitted encrypted files to 3 hidden locations across the galaxy. Evidence. Truth. Ammunition for what would come next. The executioners stepped forward with their devices. The 3 women held hands, supporting each other in their final moment. They did not beg. They did not break. The molecular disintegration was supposed to be painless. Billions watched as the 3 human generals simply ceased to exist, their bodies breaking apart into light and then nothing. The Empire broadcasted across every channel as a warning. This is what happens to those who challenge us. Far away, on a remote human colony called Haven's Rest, Commander Kang Mira sat alone in her cabin and watched her 3 friends die. She was 47 years old and had been in forced retirement for 15 years. The cabin was small and simple, surrounded by forest on a planet that barely showed up on maps. Government surveillance drones circled overhead every day, making sure she stayed put, making sure the weapon stayed in its cage. Mira watched the execution without moving. Her face showed nothing. No tears, no anger, no shock. She had known it would end this way. Jiwan had sent her a coded message 3 days ago. If you're watching this, we're already gone. The lock on your cage is broken. Do what you do best. When the broadcast ended, Mira stood up slowly. She walked to the back of her cabin and pressed her hand against a wall panel. It slid open, revealing a hidden staircase going down into darkness. The underground room was large, carved out of rock and shielded from all sensors. Weapons lined the walls, not the standard military weapons that soldiers carried. These were special, illegal, designed for missions that no government would ever admit existed. There were also computers, communication equipment, and files on every major political figure in the Empire. Mira had been prepared for this day for years. She just hoped it would never come. She packed methodically, choosing what she needed. A neural interface that would let her hack any system. Weapons that could kill in 100 different ways. False identification documents for 20 different species. Money that couldn't be traced. Everything a ghost would need. As she worked, she thought about the 3 women who had just died. Jiwon had recruited her from the Black Operations program 30 years ago. Hana had been her best friend, the only person who could make her laugh after a mission. Soman had taught her patience and planning. They had known what she was. They had known what she was capable of. And they had protected her, used her only when absolutely necessary, and kept her humanity alive when the darkness threatened to consume her completely. Now they were gone, and the Empire had made a terrible mistake. Mira climbed into her small stealth ship, a vessel she had kept hidden and maintained in secret. She activated its systems and sent an encrypted message to a man named Lee Dongjun, a captain in the human fleet who had once served under the three generals. The message was simple: the cage is open. Stay out of my way or help me. Choose quickly. Then she activated something that had been dormant for 15 years. Her old military call sign, her code name from the days when she had been the Empire's worst nightmare. Across secure human military networks, a legend came back to life: Baba Yaga Online. The name meant something to those who knew. In old Earth stories, Baba Yaga was a witch who lived in the forest, powerful and terrifying. In the modern military, Baba Yaga was something worse: a ghost, a nightmare. A woman who could infiltrate anywhere, kill anyone, and destroy everything without ever being seen. Mira set her ship's course for the border systems. As she left Haven's Rest behind, she thought about Hana's last words. Be the monster they deserve. The Empire had executed 3 women who fought for justice and peace. They had done it on live broadcast in front of billions, to make a point about power. Now they would learn what happens when you take away the leash from humanity's darkest weapon. Mira's face remained expressionless as her ship jumped into faster-than-light travel. But deep inside, behind the cold exterior that she had built over decades of impossible missions, something burned. Not rage, not hatred. Something colder and more dangerous. Purpose. The hunt had begun.